Anthony D. Mays here with another random spur of the moment live stream. I guess I could have done something to prepare for today and get something ready, but I'm last minute. Y'all know this about me by now. I live stream when I live stream. I write when I write. I chat when I chat. It is what it is. I'll do some preparation at some point and actually give y'all lead time so that you don't have to be surprised, but this is just what it is right now. So my goal is to just be helpful when I feel like I can, and if I can't be helpful, shut up. And I think y'all know by now how I feel about social media and the fact that there's so much there's a lot of people that always have something to say that probably shouldn't be talking. I aim not to be one of those people. I want it to be that anytime I decide to speak or to share information, that is something that's useful and that's going to be helpful to all of you. So happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to all of you. So good to be able to be in the land of the living. As usual, I'm still getting things set up because I decided I was going to live stream about 5 minutes ago. So I got to go remember how to do all the things I'm supposed to do to make sure that it's all good. So I'm going to, at some point, get on the chat and start monitoring things. I want to be able to just have you all ask questions, share thoughts that I can follow up on and respond to. I feel like that'd be useful. So just give me a few more moments to get set up because I don't see anything playing on LinkedIn yet, and I wonder why. Because it says that it's all set up. As usual, I'm streaming on a number of platforms: YouTube, Periscope, and on LinkedIn, hopefully if it shows up. If you're interested in following on any of the channels, just follow Anthony D. Mays, which is linked, I think, that way. Or, sorry, it's showing there. So you can connect with me on Anthony D. Mays on all the things. If you're looking for resources to help you with interviewing or with just understanding what the tech life is all about, from my perspective, you can always visit anthonydmays.com and find me there. If you notice, I've got a slightly different setup than I have had in the past. So I've got some acoustic treatment in the back here, just trying to upgrade and do a little better with the presentation. I'm just genuinely interested in this stuff. I really enjoy. Sorry about that. I'm just genuinely interested in technology and in camera stuff and video, and I've just find that to be more of an interesting hobby for me. So I think part of the reason why I force myself to live stream at times is so that I can put to work the things that I'm learning about how to set up cameras, how to set up audio, and all that good stuff. And it's been fun. I mean, I really, the technologist in me just enjoys all of the new tools and stuff. So maybe at some point, for those of you that may be interested in learning about live streaming and setting up stuff like this, I can maybe do a video or just share some tips of things that I've learned. So yeah, still getting set up. Like I said, I want to be able to answer questions that folks may have. As far as themes are concerned, one question I've been asked to answer over the past couple of days is what I would tell my younger self if I had the opportunity to meet myself as 20-year-old Anthony. What would I say? And I responded on the LinkedIn post about this, and I thought I might share or expound more on some of the things that I shared there. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing myself show up on LinkedIn, which is kind of disappointing. I should be online, but I don't know what's going on. So if you'll just give me a couple of moments, I want to make sure that if folks are going to tune in, that they can do so. What if I do that? Okay. Cool. I'm so going to have to edit this stuff later on. Again, it's oh, there it is. Yeah. All right. Now I'm on LinkedIn. Cool. So it is, as I indicated earlier, a pleasure and honor to be able to share with you things that I've learned and to just provide benefit and value to this audience. It's not something that I feel like I've earned in any kind of way. I think it's just a pleasure to be able to do what I do. Oh, Restream is acting up again. That is not cool. I wonder why. I think this happened to me the last time I was trying to stream on LinkedIn. So that's unfortunate because I have really been investing on making sure that I can send good, high quality stuff on when I stream on YouTube and on LinkedIn and whatnot. So sometimes it's disappointing when it lets me down like that. Oh, there it is. Hey, now I can see myself. Great. Cool. So I think LinkedIn is working. Fantastic. Cool. All right. Well, welcome to the live stream. I see that a surprising number of you have already jumped on, which is not something that I anticipate. Hey there, Jesus. Good to see you, Tammy. Greetings, Quinn. All right. It is looking good. I'm glad this is starting to come together. This is what I get for planning all late. So, in the past, I've talked about doing AMAs and just answering questions or whatnot. I'm always horrible at AMAs because I always have some planned agenda and don't anticipate that people are actually going to ask questions. And then I don't actually get to the questions. So this time I just want to, before I even jump into a theme or a set topic, if you have questions that you just want to ask, feel free to fire away and I will do my best to get to them in order. I'm taking down notes and all that stuff. So I really want to make sure that I'm helpful to you. For those of you that may not know me, or maybe this is your first time catching a live stream, there's a couple of things that I talk about typically. One is just my experience as a software engineer, as a Black software engineer in the industry with 20 years experience. I'm a former foster kid. I was also a former abuse victim. Had to learn computers at a young age, learn how to program at a young age, and turn that into a career and opportunity to move the needle for diversity and inclusion in the tech industry, in addition to having the opportunity to build great products. So that's what I've been doing. And in addition to talking about D&I and tech and sharing my perspective there, one of the other things that I enjoy doing is doling out advice on how to succeed in technical interviews. It was one of those big challenges for me, and I appreciate that I now have the opportunity to share with others the things that I've learned, and to do so freely. I believe in that because a lot of the resources that I benefited from when I was growing up were things that I didn't have to pay for. So I want to pay forward the investment that was made to me and be helpful there. Okay. There's a couple of questions rolling in. I'm on it today. I'm gonna be on it today. So Jonathan, you asked, did I encounter imposter syndrome on my journey? Absolutely. A lot of what my journey is about imposter syndrome, about not believing that I belonged in a space, even though I objectively did the things required in order to succeed. So imposter syndrome is one of those things that I blame myself for and not necessarily anybody else. Because it is, I did a podcast recently, and I'll share the link with that when it's released. But I did a podcast where I talked about the fact that imposter syndrome is a mind field, not minefield, M-I-N-E, but mind, M-I-N-D. And it's really about how you perceive the world around you and how you respond to that perception. And a lot of times we build this perception that doesn't match up with objective reality, and we are battling against that. And it's informed by things that we learn about in society, right? We learn about racism, prejudice, discrimination, all those things. We learn about bigotry, whatever, and we feel like that is impacting us in tangible and concrete ways, even though we may not know of absolute situation, or we may have known of absolute things, right? We may know that we've been treated unjustly by someone or unfairly, and that impacted how we see experiences like this going forward in our career. For me, I didn't so much have that. I've been treated unfairly. I don't know if it was for racism or discrimination or anything, but I've been in those situations. And I know that it's happened to people who come from my community, who look like me, who have gone through some of the things that I've gone through. So I let that inform how I viewed the world as someone who grew up in the hood of Compton, California. And so that meant that when I got to UC Irvine, I was just like, hey, nobody cares about me or my success. People are going to think I'm dumb for growing up in the Compton school system, because it was taken over by the state and is not known as the bastion of, fantastic education. So, I'd been through the riots, and seeing people on TV call me, or people that look like me, criminals, hoodlums, whatever. The same is happening right now with all the protests and riots and things like that. And so my perception is that people had an image of me that wasn't positive, and that I needed to compensate for that as I'm engaging in the world. And that is what led to much of the imposter syndrome that I had. I always say that there's imposter syndrome that people generally feel. So getting to a place like Google, where you're surrounded by smart people, or Amazon or Twitter, or whatever, you're surrounded by all of these really bright, intelligent people. There's a lot of, you will experience imposter syndrome in that context. It's amplified when you're a person of color, when you're someone from an underrepresented background, because whereas people who are from the same homogenous group are only concerned about differences in intelligence. When I come into a room, I'm thinking like, it's not just about thinking about the difference in intelligence, but it's also difference on a bunch of other factors, because we don't have the same shared experience. So I've had to deal with that and struggle through that, and learn to get out of my own head. Because honestly, there's a few things that have helped me diffuse imposter syndrome. First thing is, people aren't thinking about me as much as I think that they are. Okay. So I need to stop being so self-absorbed and making the universe about me. It ain't about me. People are just not thinking about me as much as I might think that they are. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that I've got to keep my receipts as I talk. And this is one of the things I would share to my younger self. Keep your receipts. When I say keep your receipts, what I mean is you need to document the successes and the accomplishments that you, even things that you don't see as successes, even if it's just a small incremental move forward, you need to document that stuff. Because when you're dealing with imposter syndrome, you need to remember that there are things that you have objectively done to get to where you are. There was no reason why I should have been scared about applying for Google. I was a software engineer, had done 4 years of internships. I had successfully completed a major from the University of California, Irvine, which is no university to sneeze at, and has a great program. I'd been coding at the age of 8 years old. There's no reason why I should have felt scared to apply for Google, and yet I was. But that was my fault. I should have taken the plunge anyway, but I was, again, afraid of failure. So that's imposter syndrome at a high level for me, and it's something that I continue to encounter. People invite me to give talks, and I was invited to give a talk today at Google, and I was listening to someone introduce me, and I was just like, wow, that guy sounds great. Like, I was honestly that way. And I wasn't trying to think that out of pride. It was just like, I don't always recall to mind all the things that I've been able to accomplish by God's grace. And it's something to be thankful for. It's not something that, puffs me up, but I forget these things, and then I feel like I don't belong in the room, when in reality I do. So it's just something to think about. It's something I continue to struggle with, and I think it's a good thing, because it also pushes me to get better at what I do. It pushes me to work harder to improve, because I know that I've never arrived, and imposter syndrome can be used in that positive way to help you out. So thank you for that question. I think it's a valuable one that I address a lot, and do that. How can we get more people with your background to attend UCI? Thank you, Amir. One of the things that I don't often talk about is that at UCI, so the way that I ended up at UCI was I applied for a few universities that I thought I had a chance of making it into. So UCI was on my list. UC San Diego was on my list, and Cal Poly Pomona. I think I maybe applied to one more university, and that was it. And I certainly didn't apply for Harvard, Yale, or MIT, because I was just like, no way. They're not that they're bad schools, it's just I'm not smart enough to make it there. That's what I told myself when I was younger. And I had the opportunity to visit all three campuses. It was great. With UCI, I got invited back because of an initiative between oh, shut up, watch. There was an initiative between I can't remember, it was like the campus counseling program and the Black Student Union, where they would invite students to come and stay at the Rosa Parks house at UCI and get a special tour and just learn more about Black Student Union and about what was the club? National Society of Black Engineers, and just meeting folks. When I got home from that program, in my mailbox was the acceptance letter for UCI. And so you can imagine what kind of impression it made on a young man like me to have this experience of meeting other Black students and faculty, and of course non-Black students and faculty, and appreciating just UCI as a campus, and then getting home and seeing my acceptance letter. So it was very fitting, and I loved it. I'd gotten into UCI and I'd gotten into Cal Poly Pomona and rejected from the rest. At the end of the day, I felt like I could afford UCI better because I had more financial assistance for UCI. And so I ended up choosing UCI as a result. And I don't regret my choice at all. One of the things that I think that, so there's I think two aspects of that. Number one is that I feel like there were folks at UCI who acknowledged the unique background and challenge and situations that I had. And I felt like they were making a way for me to find a place at UCI. And I appreciated that. Even now, UCI has gone and visited Compton High, attempting to recruit students from that college. And I think they're one of the few universities they're the only university that I've actually heard of that has gone into Compton high schools to try to recruit and talk to students about pathways to college. I know that there are others. I'm just saying that the only one that I was aware of is UCI. And so Brian Stevenson, in his talk on, he had a TED talk where he talked about many of the things that I believe are covered in Just Mercy. He talked about being proximate. And I think ultimately the answer to getting more people to attend UCI is for UCI to actually reach into places similar to where I've come from, to reach into the underrepresented populations, get close, understand the concerns, and then make the invitation. When I was invited to apply at Google, there was one time where I talked about in my BuzzFeed video how I was approached by a campus recruiter at UCI. A Google recruiter showed up to UCI on campus and was handing out applications to apply. I didn't apply then, and and I thought maybe they handed me an application because I just happened to be at the booth and they wanted to look like it was fair and equal for everyone. It was a lot different when I was actually called by name in 2011 to apply because I knew that it was specific to me, and so. I think in my experience, the closer that you can get to individuals and really explain it to them, the importance of having them be in these institutions is important. Okay, yeah, so that's a little bit about that. Hey, Adeline, good to see you here. Ishan, cool. Daniel, what's up? I said that kind of loud, didn't I? Daniel and I go way back to last year. Edwin, as a current UCI student, a few of my engineering friends are from Compton. So you're right on that. Yeah. Boom. So I'm talking about. Christopher asked Alicia if Google's hiring. I can tell you right now, like, Google's always hiring. Most of the big tech companies are. I can say that because I think that pretty much all the big tech companies are pretty much always hiring. They're always trying to solve huge problems, and so they're always hiring. It's just a matter of what the position is and where you're trying to fit in. But I don't. Yeah. And by the way, let me just put this out there just to cover my butt. I'm speaking today as Anthony D. Mays on this live stream. I'm not representing Google in any way. I just happen to work there. So I need to do that because some of y'all, you know, I got to watch out for you. Hey, Carol, what's going on? Good to see you. Are we getting a podcast soon? I've thought about it, but I just don't have the planning for that. I wish, I'm already just, I feel like throwing stuff together now. So, goodness, I don't know about having a podcast. I feel like I'd be pressured to say something when I don't have anything to say is my problem. And sometimes I know that I have a lot to say, but I'm not always in a position to say it at a set time, if that makes sense. So that's my thinking there. I've thought about it though, and I think I would like to do something more regular and something that's, and do something that would be helpful. So I'll think it over. I'm going to say Naaman Jane. Anthony, could you help with how to go for interview prep for tech giants like Google? Absolutely, I can help. I always do that. Just the short answer is anthonydmays.com. You can go to my website and check out some resources there. Of course, check out the websites from the companies that you're interested in, right? Make sure that you look up their prep materials. One of the things I get frustrated by is people who are trying to apply for Google don't know that Google has like a whole tech preparation website that's ready to go. And it's called techdevguide.withgoogle.com. And I'll just type it in the comments real quick. techdevguide.withgoogle.com. So I assume that there's other companies that have resources like that that will help you with getting into a place like Google. Amazon probably has a thing. Twitter probably has a thing. I don't know. But you want to look at their websites too, so you can get official information. And then once you have that, then come visit anthonydmays.com. Check that out. I've got articles on interviewing. Two of the most important ones are, there's one called The 6 Things You Need to Succeed in a Technical Interview. Oh, that's not what it's called, but it's 6 Things You Need to Do in Your Interview, something like that. You want to check that article out. And then there's a second one where I talk about the process that I use to prepare in a month and a half for the Google interview, called how to prepare for the interview with a month and something like that. I don't know. Just visit anthonydmays.com and search and you'll find it. So those are a couple of resources that you can use. But I talk about it a lot, and yeah, feel free to also visit my LinkedIn profile. On my LinkedIn profile, there's an FAQ, and I think I still have those resources there. Cool. Let's see. Keep just going through the questions. Oh, also lived in Compton in the late 80s. Yeah, that was a hard time to live in Compton. The late 80s. Yeah, early 90s. Yeah, that was a struggle. Fernando, thank you so much for the vote of confidence. I appreciate that. I never quite know whether I'm actually providing value and making sense when I do these things, but you all keep tuning in, so I guess I'll keep doing it. Please explain, how did you land at Google? How much hard work did I do? So thank you, Sadir. How did I land at Google? Hard work. So that answers that question. Worked hard. Used something like cracking the coding interview to set a plan out for myself, and then stuck to that plan. There was a combination of memorization and coding algorithms from memory, so like quicksort, merge sort, that stuff. So I would practice that. I'd practice powers of 2. I'd practice bit manipulation, and then the other half of my study was just practicing an assortment of problems. By the way, if you're using LeetCode to prepare a hacker rank, those are great resources. Continue to use them, but use them with intentionality. Use them with a plan. Don't just randomly pop around to a bunch of problems and expect that you're going to get anywhere. I've always said use cracking the coding interview to benchmark yourself. So figure out where you are today. Just take a sampling of questions from each of the sample sections, and then figure out where you do the worst, where you do the best. You figure that out by keeping time of how long it takes you to get through a problem. So if it takes you an hour and a half to get through a string manipulation problem versus 45 minutes to get through a linked list problem, that means that you should focus on the string manipulation stuff first. Go through and and do string manipulation based sample questions so that you can get stronger in that, right? And maybe leave the linked list stuff for later on. So, but time is a really important part of this, y'all. Like you really need to, you should not rush into a Google interview, right? I think people it's almost like trying to apply for the NBA and giving yourself 3 weeks, right? When everybody else has been working on it all their lives, right? And you just want to give it 3 weeks. That's not how it works. That's not how you get to the pros. You need to have a plan. You need to have a regimen. You need to have exercises. You need to, try in the smaller league first, right? Get some experience. You need to do some college ball, and then we could talk about getting drafted to the pros. So I think getting into the big tech companies, it's similar in that you need to have a plan of preparation. One does not just interview and show up without doing any preparation. And that's a unique feature, I think, of the larger tech companies, because they have the ability and the privilege to look for the best and brightest. So you really want to take the time to demonstrate that you're in that category or build up to that point, because certainly I wasn't actually the same developer. By the time I went through the process of studying, I became better as a result of studying and putting in the work. And even now, as a software engineer guru after 6 years, I feel like I'm a much better engineer now than I was when I started. And that's the way it is. Mary White, thank you so much for the birthday wish. You are my sister. I appreciate it. I made the joke on LinkedIn that I'm 37 years old, so I'm in my prime. So if you know your math, you'll get that joke. You're preparing for a data structure interview. What advice do you have for me? Yeah, Kester. So here's my advice. When you're doing a data structure question, think 2 or more data structures and how they work together. So typically, with the data structure problem, you need to design a data structure. And to do that, you're going to use elements from probably multiple data structures and put them together. So I use the spork analogy, right? A spork is useful because it serves the function of a fork poorly, but it serves the function of a fork, but also serves the function of a spoon. And so you take the strengths of each and put them together and you get a spork. And that's essentially the way that you deal with data structure problems. You're going to be asked to design some boutique data structure that needs to do some special things. And what you should be thinking is, okay, well, here's one data structure that gets me most of the way. Is there a complementing data structure that I can put with that to make it work? So that's the key to doing data structure problems. Cool. How do you keep your software engineering skills sharp? I keep my software engineering skills sharp by using them. That's the answer. I use my skills. One of the things that I would tell my younger self is that, this watch tech stuff, it'd be making me just listen to everything. Okay, there it is. All right. Oh, shut up. Technology. All right. So I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. So one of the things that I would tell myself, that I would tell my younger self, is that it's not about knowledge. It's about knowledge applied. It's not about the grade. It's about what you're able to build with the things that you've learned. I don't care if you have a doctorate with, straight A's and this and that and the other. If you can't actually do the work, then that's a problem, right? Or if you can't generate the kind of ideas and innovation that is required to get us from point A to point B, then what's it all been for? And so as a student, I think we're in this educational system that drives us towards getting the grade versus towards making use and applying what we're, and I know that a lot of universities, I know UCI is one that really struggles to get students to understand, like, it's not just about the classwork, but it's also about getting involved in projects, hackathons, getting involved with professor-led studies. I had an opportunity to work with a professor. I didn't I didn't ultimately do it because imposter syndrome. But I was glad that I was invited to work with this professor on basically a shopping experience built in Quake 3, which I thought was super cool. I should have really participated, but I was in my own head at the time. But if you get offered that as a student, you should really consider taking that up because it can be a big boost to your career and preparation. So something to think about. I meant outside of work. Okay. Oh, what do I do outside of work to keep my skills sharp? Again, it's the same thing. Like I love what I do, and I love it enough that I do it at work, but I also do it outside of work. So to be more specific, running anthonydmays.com, right? I actually write some code to enable certain functionality that I want. I have morganlatimer.com, which is where my business runs. I need code for that at times. And so I'll decide that, I'm the kind of engineer where I'm just like, I got to pay these people this much for this plugin. I could write it myself. And so then I sit down and write it myself and slave through that. And then after a couple of months, I'm just like, yeah, but it's still not complete. Maybe I should have just bought the thing after all. So sometimes I will build my own stuff, and I try to actually resist that because I think there are times when I should write my own code and all that. That's cool, but there's also a cost for maintenance. So, if it's something that I'm okay with throwing away later, I'll build it, or something just to buy me some time. I'll build it myself and write code. But yeah, running my own personal website, running a business website. Matter of fact, being an entrepreneur has been one of the best things I've done as an engineer. And it's because as an engineer, as one who builds products for other people to use, I don't often find myself in the position of having to use those things and use this ecosystem of tools to make things work. And but as an entrepreneur, I don't have time to spend doing the building. I've got to spend time doing the serving and meeting the needs of my clients. And so I rely on these tools, and it's nice to have both the front view of things and the back view of things, and to appreciate what my users must be going through when I build something that is most of the way there, but not quite. And living with that frustration and thinking about the trade-offs that have to be made. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I also do. I've done some code and stuff in my church too. So in these COVID times and having to do live streaming and stuff, I've tried to help build some tools to make that an easier experience. So it's been nice to be able to use my coding skills from a ministry perspective and be helpful at my church. So there's just tons of opportunities. There's tons of these little pain points that we deal with throughout our lives, and if we're paying attention, it's possible that we can use technology to help us out there. Fernando, what is your recommendation to get into a big tech company without being an engineer, for example, sales, etc.? So my general advice is just to be the best at what you do. Strive to be the best at what you do, and work relentlessly on your craft. And I think that if you do that and combine that with learning how to represent your work well on your resume and on LinkedIn, those are two things that will help to attract the attention of top tech recruiters for those positions. So it sounds cliche at times, but it's still true. Your resume is what gets you in the door, and most of you have really bad, horrible resumes. It just tends to be true that your resume sucks. So I've written about improving your resume. There's a link on my profile where I reference an article from Laszlo Bach, former head of people operations, and now one of the founders of Humu. And it talks about the resume formula, which I've talked about plenty of times, but I'll just quickly mention it here. I accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. That's the resume formula. And so you want to take advantage of that when you're thinking through each bullet point of your resume, okay? If you can make your resumes sort of adhere to that formula, it's helpful. And again, when you say I accomplished X as measured by Y, the Y should be measurable numbers and statistics, dollars earned, bugs fixed, features implemented, yada, yada, yada. Cool. Training on and keeping your skills sharp. Reed asks, do you feel that interviewing skills map to day-to-day work skills? If not, do you think we need to bridge the gap? So I think that's a fantastic question. People don't really understand technical interviewing, I think, at the bigs level. And I don't just mean candidates. I also think that engineers and recruiters don't all the way understand the process. Here's what I think. I think that when you're looking at the technical interviewing process, data structures and algorithms are tools. They are tools that occur or that are used and involved in my day-to-day work. If you're an engineer, or if you're a software engineer, I'm just going to speak specifically to you. If you're a software engineer working in coding or working in tests or whatever, you use tools that leverage all of these algorithms and data structures in one way or another, whether you realize it or not. The more that you understand those fundamental building blocks, the better you can understand what your code is doing as you build it and how you can build more efficient code. So the tools are relevant, and there are things that I encounter in the interview process that I also use in my day-to-day work. Funny story, I studied bit manipulation for the interview because I wanted to be sharp on that, and I know that I could get bonus points for knowing how to do bit manipulation well. And I actually had to use bit manipulation on the job. I think I mentioned this before. I was a couple of years ago, or maybe even last year, on a project that I was working on. So it does have tangible benefits. The more important thing, though, is you may work at a Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and never build your own binary tree or build your own hash map. Or you should probably never build your own hash map. But you may never build these things that you're tested on in the interview. But the problem-solving process that you use and that spirit and method of collaboration that you use in the interview process is absolutely something that you should do well, and is something that mimics the day-to-day. So one of the struggles, I was just talking about it, or I was just hearing folks on our team talking about it today. One of the struggles with COVID right now for our team is that when we're going through design exercises, we can't group around a whiteboard. We can't pick up a marker and just make these quick diagrams to talk through complicated problems. And that is, that matters. That matters. So just like in the interview, where you're invited to a whiteboard to work through a technical problem and to talk about a solution, that aspect of the interview very much mimics the day-to-day when we're at our best, of collaborating with someone, asking the questions, articulating the problem, thinking through all of that, and doing well. So the thing that you need to understand when you're tackling technical interviews is, what is my problem solving process? I ask everybody that I coach through my firm, ask everybody, do you know how you problem solve, and can you describe it in 60 seconds? Because if you can't describe it in 60 seconds, you're going to have a bad time, not just with the software engineering tech interview process, but with any interview process. You're just going to have a bad time, because if you have to reinvent your problem solving process every time you ask the question, that's going to lead to inconsistency, and inconsistency isn't what you want. What you want is to show that you are a consistently good problem solver who knows how to use the right tools for the right problems. So there's all that. Code for Christ. Daniel, I like that. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Jamboard, yeah. Jamboard is good. Again, this is just Anthony D. Mays talking. Jamboard is cool. It can get the job done, and it's been nice to have my little Chromebook in a meeting and like, oh well, let me draw it out for you, and then sort of present Jamboard for my tablet. Matter of fact, I've got my little Chromebook right here that I use for taking notes and stuff. In a little stylus. So I've been flinging that around in the air. If you were wondering what it is, that's what it is. It's a stylus. So it's convenient to be able to do that. I lose papers all the time. I've got little sticky notes here. I rarely use them because they just end up getting thrown in the trash, or I lose them somewhere. So being able to keep stuff digital is nice. I wish that we could use Jamboard a little bit more often for stuff, but if you don't really have a computer you can write on, it becomes a struggle. How's the work-life balance at Google? Excellent. Our team ended the day by playing a game. Boss built a chat bot to make the game work, and we play games. So, of course, work-life balance isn't just playing games. There's other things too. But, I noticed that where I work, a lot of effort has gone into making sure that we aren't saddled down by the stress and the demands of what's happening now that we're all at home and having a different mix of things. So it's been very refreshing. I won't go into all the details, but I think that it's been great. And the work-life balance is all. Matter of fact, I was telling my wife before I got the job at Google, like, okay, this is Google, this is the big leagues. I may have to work 12-hour days sometimes, honey, because this is the big leagues. I got to put in that effort. I really got to prove myself. And it totally has not been that. It's been 8-hour days, sometimes less, but that's just between you, me, and the wall. So I've been enjoying the fact that and it's not just the balance in terms of being at work and not being at work, but also being able to bring my best self. And by that, I mean being able to do the D&I advocacy that I do, diversity and inclusion advocacy that I get to do, helping to build culture within my office or within my team through a variety of different things. So all of that is a balance. So I get to work with people who work hard. I also get to play with people who play hard. So it's nice to have that, and to know people that I'm genuinely invested in, both with professionally and then outside of work. What soft skills are important for a new grad? Communication is a super important skill that you need to master, or that you need to work towards mastering. So much of what you do will rely on you being able to communicate with people and communicate very complicated topics in a way that is digestible for other people. So, and it's not just in the technical discussion too. Obviously, one of the reasons why I'm able to do live streaming is because to some degree I can communicate well and I can communicate clearly. And that is not something that came overnight. It's something that I had to learn and practice. And so things like the technical writing courses, or just writing courses in general in college, are super important. People who do well in this field, or pretty much in any field, are those who can communicate well and direct and influence the work of others. So you want to be good at communicating. You also want to be good, and this is related to communication, at networking. You want to be good at building relationships with other people and understanding what it takes to be sociable and useful and a team player. These aren't things that these aren't things that are explicitly called out in your college education. You're given opportunities, probably, whether via a project course or some other means, to work with other people, and you sort of learn about it the hard way. More often than not, the experience that you get in an internship will teach you about how to work with people on teams, and so that's valuable. All of that stuff is important. So communication, learning how to be a team player, learning how to work in a team and build relationships with people, networking is important. Those are a couple of the soft skills that I'd mention. There's also knowing how to learn. Learning how to be a self-learner is an important soft skill. So you want to learn and get clued into how do you like to listen to things, and that's how you absorb information. Or are you more the person that likes to see visuals? Is it more about you just teaching somebody else, and that's how you lock in information? Is it reading? You need to understand what your self-learning style is, and then invest in resources that will help you grow. And you don't have to just dump a whole book on yourself or a whole program. You can take it step by step and phase it out. So, you can decide, okay, at this particular point in my life, I want to dedicate time learning this and investigate and invest time in that. And then, okay, once you feel comfortable with that, move on to the next thing. Oh, cool. Aaron on YouTube, so good to see you, my fellow Googler. It's really cool to have you here and to see you. You asked the question, how do you approach making the most of that 1 hour? So it can be tough, and I think when I'm talking to folks about specifically interview preparation, I focus on the problem solving process. That's what I pretty much focus on for that hour. Basically, when I'm consulting with people on how to succeed in the interview, one of the things that I want them to take away is that you're not ready, because you're probably not. There are very few people that are actually, I think, ready to go through the process and have thought about their problem solving and have thought about what they need to do to be successful when they walk into the room or when they jump on the call. And so if you're walking in thinking that you can just study some leak code problems and you're set, you got another thing coming to you. So I work on exposing the fact that A, you probably don't have a good coherent problem solving process, and B, that there is a process available that will help you out. And whichever one you choose, it's just important for you to have one and to practice that. So I try to get candidates to be less fixated on doing a million leak code or HackerRank questions or whatever it is, wherever you're going, and thinking more about the process of how you engage in each question and the framework that you use for that. So that's what I do. Hopefully that makes sense. And then also, on the topic of your younger self, would you encourage your younger self to focus on getting to a large tech company, or would you encourage another focus? I think that's a great question. One of the things that people don't understand about my own journey, or maybe don't think about, is the fact that it took me 6 or 7 years to even get that first interview. It took me 5 years to get the first interview, and then it was 7 years after I graduated from school that I got the second one and got in. So I had from the time that I graduated high school to which was in 2000. So I graduated in 2001, and then I got the job at Google in 2013. For those 12 years, I spent my time at internships at Fortune 500 companies, at smaller firms. And so I worked at 3 different places before I got to Google. And that experience was useful. And that experience informed how I became the software engineer that I eventually became by the time I got into Google. So it's not always the case that going straight for a big tech company is the right move. Matter of fact, if it were me, I wouldn't let anybody go straight to a big tech company straight out of college. I would make you go to the most enterprise place that you can be, so that you can deal with, the corporate garbage that sometimes comes with that environment, right? And then that will enable you to appreciate a place like a Google or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I think if you jump straight into a big tech company, you can sort of feel entitled and like the world is your oyster. And you can forget that you're hired to do a job and you need to do that job well, and some of those other things. I think that people look at the big tech companies and don't expect them to be corporate like every other company is. But I've had the experience, and I can see these are still corporations that still obey largely the same rules that many companies do. Yeah, you don't have to wear a suit and tie, but there's a lot of other things that you need to know. So, learning the importance of soft skills, learning the importance of communication, all those things are things that I learned before I got to a big tech company. So you just need to bear that in mind. And whining about not having enough truffles on your fries while looking at your dual monitor setup, it's just not a good look. If you come out of college with that kind of attitude working for a big tech company. And I think, there's a lot of entitlement that it's just way thick in the air of Silicon Valley tech. And I think I think part of the reason is because there's so many people who make the leap straight from school into adult kindergarten, which is what a lot of these tech companies look like to me. And they haven't had the experience of struggling through a place that's not a big tech company. And there's troubles and things that you can run into there, but that's my thing. Sometimes you need to start off with working at a startup and getting the experience there, or you may actually need to avoid working at a big tech company and start your own thing. Maybe you have an idea and something that you should shepherd and go more the entrepreneur route. So these things take time to figure out, and it's important to not make being at a big tech company your life's end goal. Okay, there's plenty of opportunity around if you know where to look. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question, Aaron. Hopefully I did it justice. Does playing video games help improve passion for coding or being a software engineer? I think it can, depending upon the game that you play. So so thank you, Kester, for that question. I think it depends on, like I said, the kind of game. So I like problem-solving games, games that require me to think. And I think those kinds of games exercise the same muscles that you would use when you're problem-solving in the coding or technical context. So yeah, I like a couple of games that I would refer to. Portal and Portal 2 are one of those kinds of thinking games that involves a lot of puzzles. So I like that. I've recently been playing a couple of simulators. So American Trucking Simulator is one that I play. And then what's the other one? Elite Dangerous. I just got into that game. And so, you have to manage an economy, and you've got to make decisions that have long-term goal and have some type of strategy for getting to where you're trying to go. So those are things that I that I enjoy. So yeah, video games can definitely help with the problem-solving stuff. Have you gotten any coaching or read any books to improve your human skills, aka soft skills, things like public speaking, storytelling, influencing others, emotional intelligence, so forth and so on, which can really level up your career? That's a great question. I can't think of any specific books that really helped me to do that, other than one, which is the Bible. So I am a student of the Bible. This is what I read and rely on, and a lot of the takeaways that I've gained from Scripture about how to just interact in the world, how to communicate with care, how to speak clearly and be empathetic. All of those things are informed from a scriptural background for me. And so that has informed everything about how I think about my life and how I engage. And it wasn't always that way. I've gotten better at it over time. So that's one book that definitely has had a huge influence on me. But the other answer for that question is I've just been doing it. I've been doing public speaking. I've been demonstrating emotional intelligence by sitting with other people and learning more about them, and listening to their concerns and all that. So I put myself in situations where I'm forced to do these things, and as a result, I get better at it. So the first article that I published online was hot garbage. That's what it was, and it had to be refined. One of the great opportunities that I had, one of the great privileges that I had, is I wrote an article that was published in the Huffington Post, and I came up with the draft of it, and I had some folks help me with the review. And the first version of that article was nothing like the last version of that article, because I had to learn how to cut a bunch of stuff and fix my grammar and get rid of my overuse of passives and things of that nature, punctuation. And that was a good example for me to learn from, because as I became better at editing and looking at my own stuff and being more critical and thinking about how to make the adjustments, I just got better at writing. So, you can probably find the first article that I ever wrote and compare that to the stuff that I write now. I would like to think that there's an improvement, but it came by doing. So again, put your knowledge to work. That's one of the things I would definitely tell my younger self, is put your knowledge to work. It is so vitally important that you figure out ways to apply what you've learned outside the classroom, whether in a personal context or through some other academic exercise or internships or all that stuff. Cool. What about life after big tech? Lots of YouTubers build their own business after big tech. What about moving out of big tech back to non-big tech? Thanks, Reed, on YouTube, for posing that question. For me, it's something I've given a lot of thought to. I think at some point, I think there's plenty of big challenges in big tech companies. One of the things that I enjoy about working at a big tech company is that there's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurship. So that is building, a new business within a more established company and using those resources, using the resources of the larger company to iterate and sort of have the protection, but then also do something that's trailblazing too. And so there's a lot of opportunities to I think grow personally and professionally when you're in that big tech company context, because you've got those tools and resources. But then there's also an aspect of, well, would I be able to do and build excellent things without that safety net? And I think that can be an attractive problem for many to solve, which is why a non-trivial number of big tech software engineers go and start their own firms and startups and all that stuff. So it is attractive to think about and to contemplate. And, for those who are able, I think it's something that's worth thinking through and thinking about. Because certainly having the big tech creds and then going and starting your own thing, it's nice to be able to tie those things together and to figure out ways to make that transition in a way that makes sense. So yeah, that's Adlan. You want to be a fellow Googler? Yeah, that's cool. Come on and join us. We got room, I think. I shouldn't say we. This is Anthony D. Mays talking. I'm in no way speaking on behalf of Google or any other company for that matter. I try not to get in trouble, but All right, I think I've gotten through all the questions, like, remarkably. That's surprising. Usually I don't do that. I've got a few more minutes for questions, or I can just, hey, how are y'all doing? What's up with y'all? Are you finding life okay right now? I mean, I know there's a lot of difficulty in the situations that are happening today and in the discourse, but if there's a way that I can be helpful or just listen. I mean, maybe this isn't the best way because you're sharing stuff in front of 40, 50 people and whoever watches, but I don't mind. If you're cool, I'm cool. So hopefully y'all are doing okay and hanging in there. Some of you have reached out just to express thanks and appreciation. I appreciate that. Grateful to serve. Others of you have wanted help with interview advice and whatever. That's cool. If I don't respond, sometimes it's just because I've got that many messages and meetings to work through, and it just takes time. So please do be patient with me, and you may consider being persistent, but not in a way that would cause me to block you. So just use sense. Marina, so good to see you. It's always a pleasure to see your name in the messenger and all those things. So I can't say enough good things about Marina G. So if y'all care to follow Miss Marina Gardner, please do. She's a cool person. How can I network with other Black developers? Are there good groups in the any good groups in the SoCal area? Sure. So there's yes, there's the Blacks in Technology group. That's a cool group of folks to get involved with. They have a Slack channel where you can participate online. They also have regular meetups too, so you can figure Blacks in Technology. Just look them up and you'll find them. I'm trying to think of other groups. See, for me, my general approach isn't just to meet with. I understand the value in being able to connect with people who maybe have a shared experience and legacy and whatnot. Don't negate that. I just try to join whatever groups make sense, aligned on interest, and getting around with them. So I like diverse groups and diverse populations, and being able to learn more about just software engineers as people and folks in tech as people, as opposed to looking for specifically for folks. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm part of the Black Googlers network at work, and I enjoy being able to meet and talk with those folks from time to time. I've appreciated Blacks in Technology. I loved BitCon when I attended last year, which was in Minneapolis. or was in Twin Cities last year. And so there's been some good opportunities to just partner with other folks and just to talk about some of those shared experiences that I've had. But like I said, in the SoCal area, it's basically been Blacks in Technology for me. And if there's a couple of others, I'm forgetting them right now. I want to shout out TechStacked, by the way. TechStacked, TechStackd, so not ED, but just KD. TechStacked.com, which is run by my friend Bria Sullivan. So she's pretty cool and is really about putting in work to help address issues of diversity in tech and just helping folks to get in. So if you haven't checked out techstack.com, I'll just type it in the comment on LinkedIn. Definitely supportive of that group. And so it's one of the few Slack channels that I actually participate in because they're cool. Read, God is good. You will not find any argument from me. So I definitely believe that. Adult kindergarten with the truffle fries. That's right. That's basically what it is. And you know, I really do mean that. There's the environment for learning and doing work, right? And taking advantage of those young years where you're learning a lot and absorbing a lot of information. So there's that aspect of kindergarten, but then there's also the playtime and the balance between the two. And their snacks. Well, not now, obviously, but their snacks. So if you can come up with a better picture for what big tech looks like, let me know. But I very much think it's like adult kindergarten, even down to the childish behavior. I'm not gonna lie, some of y'all be childish. It just is what it is. Sometimes I'm childish. Let me just put it like that. I can't go to a meeting without saying like, is there gonna be food? I'm gonna have snacks. You know, is that gonna be? Because I don't know if I should attend this meeting if there isn't gonna be snacks. So yeah, I'm childish at times. Snacks and swag. You know, are there gonna be snacks? Will there be swag? Because if I'm not getting at least one of those two things, I'm not coming to your meeting. I'm just going. I'll do it online. All right. Cool. Yeah. So Cali's Finest. Yeah. Hard to find groups of Black developers. Yeah, I hear you. It is a challenge, and you know, I benefit from the privilege of being able to work at a place where I've got I think a really well connected group of Black Googlers and brown Googlers and so forth and so on. So that's been nice. If you don't have that, the land can seem a whole lot more sparse. So I totally get it. Like I said, Blacks in Technology, they're not just in SoCal, by the way, they are all over the nation. So go find your local chapter. NSBE is another organization that you should check out. Again, on the bigger end, and encompasses more than just coding and software engineering. But you know, NSBE has been National Society of Black Engineers is one that I've been involved with, and they do cool stuff. You might consider going and knocking on the door of your local university or your school and getting connected with students there in the computer science department and talking with them, you know, or taking advantage of the alumni network through your university or school or what have you. Those are some other places that you can look for building network and connecting with other professionals in your area based upon, you know, parameters or whatever. Cool. And I just realized that like the stream that I see is lagging. By the time I see your comments, like 2 minutes have probably passed. So if it seems like I'm getting to your questions late, it's because of latency. That's all it is, latency. I spend so much time trying to fix latency issues. It just is what it is. Okay. Any other questions? This is time for you, hopefully, and is useful. Let me just quick, like I said, one of the reasons why I got on is because I wanted to just quickly elaborate on some of the points that I made in a response earlier to what would I tell my younger self. Let me see if I can pull it up without, yeah, and I just kicked myself out of my own live stream. Yay. One of the things that I talked about is that, when I say keep your receipts, one of the other ways that I put it is, when you graduate from school, no one's putting together your report card. No one's putting together your transcript. That's your job from now on. Not every place that you're going to work has a robust employee review process where you get constant regular feedback from other people about how you're doing. Sometimes you're in a situation where you're not launching products and putting stuff out there and building new things. And so progress doesn't get captured that way. You need to take responsibility for keeping track of the things that you do, for your successes, for your incremental progress, documenting that stuff and getting it on your resume. So there is that. Dev Color, that's right. I so forgot about Dev Color. Thank you, Daniel, for mentioning Dev Color. Local organizations supporting people of color, that are useful to connect with and support. Dev Color, totally forgot about that. Thank you, Daniel, for mentioning them. We have a snack manager rotation. Alicia, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. Hey, if you don't know who Alicia is, you need to go follow her and check her out. She is a staff software engineer at Google. So I was like, that's a fancy title. That's a dope title. That's pretty cool. So my sister's running things. I feel like at some point I should just interview you and ask you about your experience and just shoot the breeze with you. Same thing, Aaron. I know we need to do a thing, so I'm just I'm gonna have everybody make me accountable to follow up and have some guests on here, so it's not just me talking to y'all faces because I'm not that pretty. What are some of the other things that I said that I would tell my younger self? So one of the concepts that I talk about is just saying yes. When you're younger, you're going to be asked to do things that you don't know how to do. You're going to be invited to solve problems that you've never seen, and your natural inclination is going to be to respond by saying no, or saying that you don't know whatever it is that needs to be solved, because in your mind you think that you need to know all the things in order to solve all the problems, and that's totally not the case. Typically, one of the things I've learned how to do well in my career is to solve problems that I've never seen before by collecting the information that I need, gathering the research and the evidence, asking the questions, trying things out, failing, and then getting to the solution that works. And so that's typically how to adult, right? Something breaks in my house, washing machine breaks down. I don't know nothing about washing machines. I don't even know how to fix it. But I guarantee you, give me a couple of Google searches and a YouTube video, and I'm on that, right? So, so typically adulting involves solving problems that you haven't seen before and learning how to deal with that and bringing the right tools to the process. So just say yes, because those are the opportunities that develop you into things that, into the kind of professional that you never thought that you could be. Yeah, take the leap. There's a hackathon, take the leap. Who cares if you don't know, right? Just take the leap. Be honest, like, hey, I don't know this, so don't lie, be honest. But once you've made it clear that you don't know the things, but that you're willing to learn and invest the energy, if they say yes, that means that they're putting faith in you to really run with that. And so take that vote of confidence and make it happen. Because I can't tell you how many problems I've started solving. I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew that I was going to get fired because I was going to fail. And then a couple of days later, I've got the solution. So there's that. Be relentlessly inquisitive. You need to practice asking. You need to practice asking questions. You need to get over the feeling of feeling like the dumb person in the room, because you have to ask the question. Get over that. Ask the questions. Ask questions until people get sick of you. Because if you keep asking questions like that, you'll go from the person who asks all the questions to the person who answers all the questions, because you will have been soaking in so much knowledge and connecting the dots. So you need to be relentlessly inquisitive. You need to be relentlessly inquisitive about everything, asking questions that you don't think that you have to ask, so that you can uncover things that other people won't uncover because they're not asking the questions. So do that. I could probably do a whole video about chasing passion. Um, a lot of young people are tied up in this idea that they got to chase their passion. And the reality is that you don't probably even know what your passion is. You don't really know how, it could be because of last night's burrito that you feel so passionate about this thing. It can be very emotional driven as opposed to something based in fact. There's a lot of reasons why you can't chase your passion, but I think more important than chasing your passion is finding things that you can develop, finding skills that you can grow. And as you work hard and as you are diligent in the things that you're growing in, you will find yourself becoming more passionate about that. So you might have an idea of what you want to do when you grow up. And the cold hard reality is you ain't going to become that. You're going to do this other thing. Okay, well, that's fine. How do you grow in that and learn how to be passionate about the thing that you're doing right now so that you become better? And typically you find success in that. I didn't always think that I was going to become a programmer. I thought I was going to be a network engineer, network operations guy. That's what I thought. And I was attracted to the idea of being able to go outside and working with computers and working in server rooms and all that stuff. And so when I got the opportunity to do software engineering, I was just like, okay, well, I'll just do this while, so I can really get into building my own networking consulting firm, working on the Microsoft stack and all that stuff. But ultimately, I ended up sticking with software engineering, and I feel like I'm the better for it because I really enjoy software engineering. I think it's a very accessible career and something that's pretty hot nowadays. So, it is what it is. I did application support. I was a support engineer for a while. I was asking questions and just fixing bugs. That was a very valuable time of my life, a very important time for my growth and development. And I just wanted to be good at it. And as a result of being good at application support and fixing bugs, I learned how to read code better. I learned how to deal with deploying things to production and managing those concerns. And ultimately, it gave me the insight to be able to say, okay, this thing that I'm building right now, the way that I'm building this, is it going to be well supportable to other people that need to support it? So I need to make some different decisions and change some things up there. Cool. What are some of the challenges that I face now? Emily Wood, thank you so much for that question. There's imposter syndrome is always with me. I still deal with that, and I appreciate that. I'm constantly asking myself, am I doing the things that I should be doing where I am and at my level? So I think that I've tried to take a more mature approach to imposter syndrome, where it's not about believing that I'm fake or that I don't belong here, but it's always about double checking and making sure that I'm doing the things that are befitting of my position and station. So I'm constantly questioning that and seeing, am I in this? That, by the way, is a very biblical concept too. As a Christian, I'm taught by Scripture that I should always be checking myself, doing that self-examination to be sure that I'm in the faith, that I'm practicing the things that I should practice. And so that's something that also blends over into my professional life, where I'm making sure that as a software engineer, that I'm doing the things that I should be doing in my role and meeting the requirements. And not only just meeting them, but exceeding them when I can. So that's one challenge that I face. Another challenge that I face is just building more consistency. So I would like to be more consistent in terms of producing content for the community and being helpful. And, I would very much like to minimize these ad hoc live streams and maximize planned, well thought through things. So, but part of this is just me forcing myself to get better at live streaming, getting better at having conversations, getting better at answering questions and all those things. So there is a bit of a trade-off there. I think the other thing that I'm also struggling with now, particularly as a diversity and inclusion practitioner, which is what I call myself, is learning how to do good while also being faithful to the things that I believe from a scriptural perspective. There's a lot of narratives swirling around. There's a lot of influence on the media and whatnot. And there's a lot of stuff that I disagree with and that I don't buy into. I would not uh, me. I was just explaining to people, like, I'm as a Christian, I'm always in a position where I'm working with people that I probably disagree with on a great many things with regards to how life works. Like, I'm always in that situation, and I've learned how to move in that society. So I want to make sure that as I'm talking about these serious issues that impact tech and that impact humanity, that I'm doing so in a way that's biblically consistent and consistent with my faith, but at the same time is genuinely helpful. So there's a lot of dialogue around race and around prejudice and racism, this and that and the other. I want to make sure that I'm speaking in a responsible way and in a way that is consistent with truth. So that's my thought. Adlan, imposter syndrome has been my best friend for a while now. Yeah, right? Imposter syndrome. That's failure is my friend. Imposter syndrome is my friend. We work together. It's a package deal. So I like that. What's the other thing? Okay, so the last thing that I talked about is networking. I've talked about networking before. As a young person, if I had kept track of my friends and colleagues at UCI, I'd have way more, I'd say, useful career connections than I have today. So, it would be great if I could, if a young person is looking for a job, hey, I've got this friend of mine, we went to school together, they're doing this thing, why don't you talk and figure out if that might be a good fit? Or, hey, here are some other D&I practitioners who can get involved on campus and help out with things there. I wish I had built that network more and done more to really connect with people and to follow their progress. There's a couple of people that I did keep in touch with, and that's been great. I just wish that I had done more of that as a younger person. Again, I was all up in my head with this imposter syndrome stuff. Like, I don't want people to really know who I am because they may learn about me and not like what they see, and look down upon me or something of that nature. And so I let that get in the way of me building meaningful connections. So it's just one of those things that I regret now. But by regret, I mean, I wish that if I had it to do it again, I would have made more connections and really been thoughtful about that. But hey, I've got all of you. You're my friends now. So I'm also working on just being better in terms of networking and being engaged with people, not just as a group, but as one-on-one. So, if there's a way that I can serve personally or pray for you or offer suggestions and thoughts around how you can manage your career, just let me know. And I'll try to be helpful as I can. Cool. I feel like we're winding down. I feel like we're getting down to the bottom of the bucket. I really appreciate all of you that have tuned in. I don't take it for granted that I deserve to be talking to all of you, or that you all just have to hear what I have to say. Whether one of you tunes in, or whether 50 or 100 or 1,000, I'm grateful to be able to do what I do and to share the information that I share in a way that is beneficial to you. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement, for every comment, liked post, whatever. One of the things that I think that you can do to be helpful to me is if you see that I'm sharing something that could be helpful to someone else, share it. Share the resources, share the articles, share the post, whatever that is, if you think that's going to be helpful for somebody else. I think that's useful to me, because ultimately, as I was explaining to somebody earlier, I feel like I'm always talking to my 20-year-old self. I'm always trying to share information that would help that person. And there's a lot of people who share the struggles that I had when I was coming up as a black man in tech. And it's not about being a black man in tech. It's about just dealing with these struggles that people deal with in general. And so I'm always working to figure out how can I use the experiences that I've had uniquely in a way that broadly impacts others for the better, no matter who they are or where they come from. So if you see something that you feel like will be helpful to somebody, whether that's the BuzzFeed video about my life, website at anthonydmays.com, whatever, please do share. It's kind of funny when people ask me, well, is it okay to share this article that you posted publicly for the world to see? Yeah, that's okay. I'm fine with that. Yeah, you see things on the side or whatever, just share it. And you know, if somebody benefits, you know, let me know. Don't mind hearing that. Okay. Well, my time is up. I've actually got another meeting after this. So I want to thank you all for joining me and for listening to me talk for this time. It's been such a great pleasure and honor. Hopefully you found the answers to the questions helpful. This will be on YouTube and recorded there. So don't worry if you missed part of this discussion. That will all be there. Hit me up. Let me know how I can be helpful. And in the meantime, y'all have a good one. So peace.